That time my mom decided that she didn't have to pay rent. This was about 20 years ago in late 2000 or early 2001. My mom was one of those people who simply didn't understand that she had to pay for things. She was famous for running up huge phone or power bills, not paying them, and then getting mad at the company when they turned the service off. Her reasoning was that they should understand that she needs the phone or power or whatever. To her credit, I guess she did pay her rent, though she wasn't happy about it. Not in the way everyone is unhappy with paying their rent, but like she deeply resented it. She took it personally. One day, she learned about the legal concept of squatters' rights. This is a thing, and in California, it means essentially if you live in an abandoned property and improve it for 5 years with no owner coming forward, you can claim ownership. What she thought this meant was that if she stopped paying rent, she'd become a squatter and have the right to stay. Needless to say, her landlord disagreed. She did eventually give in and start paying her rent again after a couple months, but needless to say, she didn't stay in that house for much longer. Yeah, I love the idea that your mom thought that your guys' landlord was just like not gonna try to evict her for 5 years while she wasn't paying rent. I don't really know what squatters' rights is, okay, I will say that. But I will say that obviously the person who owns the house is going to get a little upset somewhere along that 5-year stretch that they're apparently not going to come forward during. Obviously no one likes paying any bill, but the idea of your mom running up a phone bill and then getting mad at the company for turning it off low-key is hilarious. Best of luck with that, bro. What's up, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today we're doing another installment of Entitled Parents. You guys tend to really love this series, so obviously I'm gonna make it. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into some stories. My parents got mad because I tipped the pizza delivery person. This happened the other day. My parents are not from the US, and tipping culture isn't as much of a thing in their home country. But I grew up here in the US and always tip when it's expected and hoped for by the person doing their services. Anyways, I almost never get pizza delivered. I always prefer to pick it up at the restaurant, but I was feeling lazy and decided to order delivery. The pizza driver shows up and I sign the receipt that I had paid over the app with my bank card and gave them a cash tip. $5 for the tip since my order was 15 total and the restaurant is only 8 minutes away from the house. Anyways, my parents saw me give him the $5 and immediately asked why I gave him cash when I told them I'd already paid for it. I explained that you're supposed to tip pizza delivery people and that the person who delivered the food was nice and polite, so they earned the tip. They then proceeded to go on a rant on how I'm not smart with my money, how they should decide what I spend my money on, and how I'm an idiot for tipping. They even said pizza delivery people should get better jobs if they're gonna rely on tips. Here's the kicker. I work at a dine-in restaurant. I receive tips too, yet they don't ever seem to have a problem with tipping me at work. Anyways, my parents have always been like this, wanting to control my finances despite the fact that I work full-time and pay them rent as well. Alright, obviously if they're not from the US, I would understand them not getting tipping, but I love how in their mind you giving someone $5 means you're a moron and they should be in charge of your finances. Like, alright, that's a little bit of a step too far, just a little bit, and yeah, tipping's just one of those things that like you just gotta do until they change the fact that tipping's what they rely on. Europe's kind of got the right system. I think paying people what they deserve to be paid is better than relying on tips. But until it's changed, yeah, I'm not gonna take out my frustration with it on the delivery person. They still deserve the tip. Mom thinks she's entitled to my new vehicle because hers is old. Change names and a few details because my family has Reddit accounts. Anyways, I finally got a steady career after years of crappy seasonal jobs and labor jobs that paid for the gas that got me to the job and back home. The first thing I wanted was a new pickup truck since I travel for work 3/4 of the year and pay lump sum in rent when I'm home, so essentially $3K for 2 to 3 months, which is average rent. I spent 5 years carless because my sister wrecked my vehicle, but she got a new car while I suffered, riding buses and walking. I hated it, but it also gave me time to think of how a new vehicle I wanted was. I had never owned a new vehicle, so I decided that that was my plan. The way that my mom treated our previous few cars, ran low on oil, empty tank, I had a huge distrust of other people with my vehicles. However, my mom heard I was truck shopping, so she conspired with my cousin to find one for me. She sent me links to ugly-ass hoopties, and not even Whistling Diesel would mob around in those. Overpriced, lifted, high-mileage bro-dozers in yellow and white rocking I'm filthy stupid poor mod dealerships had upsell on. I need something refined, not kyled up rockstar crap. I told her I don't need help shopping, and she got angry and sent me more, and I noticed a theme. Many were trucks she looked at before and couldn't afford. She, on the other hand, only bought one vehicle in her life, and all of the rest were from Grandpa, basically including her current vehicle, cause he couldn't drive anymore after he went blind. So she sent me one more lifted brodozer and I spoke my opinion, claiming, do I look like Guy Fieri with daddy issues? Am I a Florida Georgia Line fan? Stop sending me this garbage. I work for a living, not pretend it. She then got mad, saying that I'm just helping, and I told her I don't need help because I know what I want, and she got mad, saying that I don't know anything about pickups, especially diesels. I work on diesel engines, by the way. Kinda odd, I can operate an engine used in trains, but don't know crap about pickups with diesels. Okay, so after back and forth of telling her no, she then started sending me ads for stickers, like things she liked, asking if I wanted them. I told her no and she got mad, asking why I don't want them. I informed her stickers are a thief magnet and additionally I hate them, and she got mad and started asking for more things about what she will get me for my new truck. I overheard her talking to my cousin and they plan to sell my grandpa's car and keep mine a daily, and I don't trust either of them and I'm not leaving it at home. So I ended up buying self-storage for my new truck. She asked for a copy of the key since I'll be gone soon, and I laughed and said, like hell, you got your own vehicle. She got mad, saying it'll sit for half the year and that's bad for it, and I told her it's not gonna happen and left it in storage. She and my cousin ranted at me about how I, the guy who works on engines and frequently did tune-ups and oil changes on her cars, doesn't know crap, while they, one who nearly burned my engine up and the other who ran straight into water and blew up her water pump, knows more. Last time it was brought up, Mom's boyfriend needed a spare vehicle to drive and he lives on a farm, and I explained if I wanted cow crap and dents in, I'd buy an 80s farm truck. Told her he's a big boy and he can afford one on his own. Alright, listen, if you were like, just telling your mom no car for no reason, then yeah, it's a little weird. But if she's literally destroyed a bunch of your cars, never taken care of hers or bought one of her own, then yeah, I can see why it would kinda scare you that she's not gonna know how to treat the shiny new vehicle. I especially love how pissed they got when they found out it was going into storage. That's just even more of a reason to not trust them with it. Sending you cars that she wants, let's be a little bit more on the nose, why don't we? It's your money you're spending, you get the truck you want. That should have been the reaction. You probably made the right choice by locking it up. Entitled Mom messes with me on my birthday. One of my closest friends owns one of LA's most popular pumpkin patches, and I've been her operations manager for 6 years. It's more of a festival at this point, which I mentioned to give a clear indication of the scope of the event. We're geared towards kids under 8 and operate a slew of activities and rides for them to go on and do, so the place is quite a hive of activity with children running around the place and interacting with each other. Now it was a Friday night at the end of October, my birthday in fact, so the joint was definitely jumping at that point. I was standing near one of the food trucks watching some of my staff operating a nearby inflatable when I noticed 2 kids running around the same area throwing wood chips at each other. Annoying, but not necessarily a danger at that point, as they were clearly focused on only each other and mostly away from the other kids. That clearly became too boring, so they started throwing handfuls of chips in the air in front of them, creating a shower of wood. Now it's creating a safety hazard, especially as they start targeting other children nearby. I look around and see no adult and immediately paying attention to them, but I was assuming that they belong to someone in a group of women at the food truck in front of me. I catch the eyes of the little girl, who realizes she's been caught, and I shake my head. No need to make a big deal out of it if I don't have to, right? Then she gave me one of those smug, evil little smirks that bad kids seem to wear at all times and threw another handful of chips. I started walking towards them and they both proceeded to throw 2 handfuls of chips at me, all of which hit me pretty straight on. Stop. That is not okay. Don't throw any more wood chips. Pretty simple, right? I was appropriately stern without raising my voice. We obviously have rules, many of which exist to keep everyone safe, and they are breaking several of them, and it's also spelled out pretty clearly on the signs. You break the rules, you risk being 86 from Mr. Bones. Well, Mommy Dearest suddenly appears. I'd guessed accurately she was one of the food-bound ladies, and she's furious with me. You do not talk to my kids like that. You don't talk to my kids at all. The way she's reacting, you'd think I just offered them candy to lure them into my windowless van. The kids moved to stand behind her, grinning up at me. They're breaking the rules and hitting me with wood chips, and I'm telling them to stop. I don't care. You don't tell my kids what to do. You don't tell my kids to stop anything. Well, if you would tell them, I wouldn't have to. They throw things things at me, they're going to get talked to. No, they can throw whatever they want and you don't say anything to them. I am their mother and you do not need to talk to them. Then be a mother and pay attention to them. They're breaking the rules and they're hurting people and it's not okay and they need to stop. And she unleashes another round of, you don't talk to them, I talk to them. Only this time, she adds, you don't tell me what to do as a mother. I'm autistic as well and normally terrified of confrontation, but I do have a switch that renders that a moot point, and boy did she hit it. I stepped closer to her and said, actually I do. This is my event and I run the entire thing, and if you and kids don't follow my rules, I will gladly invite you to leave. Clearly, she had no idea I worked there, never mind, was in charge of all the things, because she was dumbstruck for a moment, and I expected her to keep going, and she did, albeit in a very quiet, resigned manner. She muttered a few more things to me about not being their mom, and how awful I was for telling children they couldn't have fun, yada yada, and then went back to her group, and the kids definitely realized by then that their illustrious mommy had lost this one, and would continue losing if they tried to pull their stupid stunt again. The amount of entitlement I've seen her at this job is astronomical, and I've kicked multiple people out over the years, and that family was one wrong move away from a permanent ban. Don't F with me on my birthday. You know, kids throwing wood chips is going to happen from time to time, but throwing them at the person who works at the event is, a little definitely too far. If they're willing to throw wood chips at the employees, they're definitely willing to throw a wood chip in another kid's eye. I also love the mom. You don't tell them what to do. Actually, I don't know if you know this, the people that run the event actually are in charge of telling you what to do. That's like the only reason that they're there. If that wasn't part of their job, right? Okay, then the pumpkin patch would just be a free-for-all. Everyone would be curb stomping pumpkins like it's a Smashing Pumpkins concert, and you don't want that type of chaos unleashed on this planet, lady. Parent challenges karate instructor. I'm a karate instructor at Kempo Karate Dojo. I've been teaching for about 3 years, and I've been learning karate for almost 9.5 years, and kids and their parents are, for the most part, very cooperative. But this is one of those incidents where I had to confront someone. Anyways, I teach the youngest class, and the youngest you can be is 5 years old. But if the main sensei says so, you can join earlier. For example, if your birthday's in a week or so, you can still join, and that's all important, so keep it in mind. One day, we had 2 new students in class. All right, the main instructor does their thing while I work with the 2 new kids personally, making sure that they get the basics down, and they were both in front of the class. At the lower rank you are, the closer you are to the front. It just makes sense that someone new gets everything they need to know, and I noticed that one of the kids seemed very focused on their dad. No big deal, that's normal, especially for a new student, so I tapped him on the shoulder. Hey, pay attention to the main instructor. I want to see dad. Don't worry, you can see your dad in, and I looked at the clock to see what time it was, about 20 minutes. Okay. Thank you. I walked away at this point, but I had the idea of strikes that we were doing, and I made sure that the other kids didn't need any help. After about 5 minutes, we had a kneel and breathe, which is basically where you sit on the floor and practice deep breathing. I was making sure they were focusing on their breathing when I saw the kid looking towards his dad. It was obvious as he had to walk across the dojo to get to the lobby area. We have a wall that separates the two across with a small gap so you can get to the lobby, and I ended up walking up to the kid. Hey buddy, can you please go sit back down? But I need to get a water. You can get a water after you work on your breathing. We have a designated time where you can do that. Oh, okay. And he sat back down. Thank you. It was at this point I started getting suspicious about his age. He was very tiny compared to the other students, even his brother. It could have just been a genetic thing. I mean, my best friend isn't the tallest while her sister is super tall. But either way, when we split into groups, I had him, so I talked to him. Hey, how old are you? I'm about 3. I was shocked. I knew that the sensei let kids younger than 5 in, but never someone this young, and I didn't want the kid to think he did something wrong, so I didn't say anything to him about it. We worked on our techniques, and I took a second to speak with the main instructor about his age. Hey, did you know that that kid's only 3? Does the sensei know that? I would assume so. I'm gonna speak to the sensei after class to make sure. Okay. After we bowed out, I went to speak with the sensei. Hey sensei, did you know that the new student, this kid? Yeah, what about him? They're only 3. I just wanted to make sure you know that. What do you mean they're only 3? The dad said they were about to turn 5. Apparently not. The sensei had a quick look around the lobby, seeing that the dad and kid were gone. Well, doesn't look like they're here. I'll have a talk with the dad tomorrow. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. The next day comes along after school, and I walk into the lobby of the dojo, and it's the first class, so not many people are here. I didn't see Bill, so I assumed he was in the bathroom, so I sat on the couch and pulled out my phone, and about 3 minutes later, I see the dad walk in with the kid and his brother. And because I was off my meds, I decided to talk to the dad about the kid. "Hello, how are you, Dad?"
Yeah, why do you ask me?
"Well, I'm me, and I taught the kid and his brother yesterday during their first day, and I had a question about your son."
All right then, what is it?
"How old are they?"
Well, they're about to turn 5. I told the sensei about that, and he said it was okay for him to join.
"Really? Because from what the kid told me, he's only 3 years old, and I don't see any reason to lie about your age in a situation like that, so do you mind explaining yourself?" The dad shot the kid a glare.
Well, that doesn't matter. They're here now, and you can't do anything about it. Just suck it up.
"You might be right. I can't do anything about your son being 3 and him being here, but I can do something about it with the sensei. So again, could you please explain why he's participating in the class?"
Well, I signed his brother up for it, and he wanted to do it with him, and I didn't want to leave him out of things, so I signed him up.
"Well, that's fine as long as you are at the very least about to turn 5, which he's not."
Well, why do you care so much?
"Because I don't want your kid getting hurt. He's only 3 and he could get seriously hurt if he's not careful. I was kind of exaggerating, but wasn't flat out lying. He could have gotten hurt if he wasn't careful."
He's fine, he's just participating, right, kid?
"Yeah, I'm fine participating." I knelt down to be at the kid's level. "Look, kid, I'm not saying don't do karate. I'm saying wait until you're at least 5 if you want to do it here."
Don't talk to my kid like that.
I stood back up. "Talk to him like what? Talk to him with his safety in mind? I'm making sure he won't get hurt and become discouraged." The dad stood up at this point.
I have his best interest in mind. If he's happy, he can do it. End of story, and you don't have a say in what I do with my kid.
"Maybe I don't, but I also want to make sure that he keeps his interest in what he's interested in."
Don't you dare talk back to me unless you want to fight.
I was thinking to myself that this couldn't be happening. I've been learning karate for 9.5 years. You don't want to fight me.
Fine then, right here, right now.
He went in for the sloppiest punch I've ever seen. When I did a small takedown technique, it was a simple sweep, mainly used if someone's trying to stab you with a knife, but it was easy to adapt. I also made sure he didn't hit his head on the hardwood floor that the lobby has, and it was at this point the sensei came out of the bathroom.
What are you doing?
"Calm down. He tried to throw a punch, so I took him down. If you want, you can look at the camera footage and see the whole conversation." I pointed up at the camera that was perched on the wall.
All right, I'll look at the footage, but please let go of the dad.
"Yes, sensei." I let go of the dad's hand as he started yelling at me. I tuned out most of it, but I'm sure he said something about calling the police, which he surprisingly didn't.
All right, I looked at the footage, and it's clear that while you started the conversation, the dad threw the first punch. Look, I don't want the police involved, so I'm going to speak with the dad and you, but don't ever pull a stunt like that again. Are we clear?
"Yes, sensei." I didn't hear the conversation between the sensei and the dad, but what I know is that the kid and his brother don't go to this karate studio anymore, and instead are going to a different one not too far from us. We aren't rival dojos, we actually get along really well. So there you go, the story about an entitled dad lying about his innocent kid's age to get into a karate class. Alright, that was a good story. Dad was definitely entitled, but the ending made me sad. You know, you sent him to a rival dojo, but you get along? Are you kidding me? This is a prime moment to get some real life Cobra Kai. You know, imagine those kids go there. "I will do whatever it takes to learn how to take down the studio that has shamed my father's honor." Next thing you know, we got a 40-season Netflix show about karate people fighting, okay? They already had one that did well. What's another one? That's how Netflix does it, right? You know, they have one reality show that does well, so they make 800 of them. Cobra Kai did well, so let's get a sequel based on this, you know? The time I inadvertently ended up babysitting a 4-year-old on a 5.5-hour long flight. This happened about 10 years ago. Back then, I had to travel for work every so often, and the travel was always last minute, which meant I typically ended up in a middle seat. This particular flight was from Miami, Florida to Seattle, Washington, and it's a long flight at around 5.5 hours, but I was used to traveling a lot, so always had things to keep me occupied. When I boarded the plane, I was seated towards the very back, and in the window seat was an older woman. No one was in the aisle seat or in the other seats across the row. I got settled in and waited
waited to see who would be sitting in the aisle seat, and after most of the plane was full, a family of 4 made their way down the aisle to sit up next to me. It was a mom, a dad, a 4-year-old girl, a boy, probably 2 or 3. To my surprise, the parents and the boys sat at the seats across and let the 4-year-old sit next to me. This seemed like an odd arrangement to me, as my parents always boxed us in so we wouldn't bother other people. But I wasn't worried because the parents were 2 feet away and the plane eventually taxied and took off. The young girl was very polite and we talked a little bit about how old she was and if she'd flown before, and it was around this time I asked her what she was going to do on the flight since it was so long. She just shrugged and said, "I don't know." I then looked over to her parents, hoping they would pull out a book or something, but sadly, both the parents and the little boy were fast asleep. As this was a business trip, I had planned to catch up on some work during the flight, and we didn't have Wi-Fi on planes much back then, but I had things to write up and had an offline copy of some emails I wanted to dig through. However, the little girl kept talking and asking if I had anything to do. Now at this point, I could have put on some headphones and just ignored the kid for the remainder of the flight. I know others would do the same. Actually, when the woman next to me heard the little girl had nothing to do, she wished me good luck and opened a book, and proceeded to ignore me the rest of the flight, which I do not blame her for. I know others would ignore the kid, but it wasn't her fault her parents didn't bother to have anything for her to do, and I felt bad, so I started coming up with things to keep the kid busy. I asked a flight attendant for a pen and explained the kid had nothing to do for the whole flight, and they were kind enough to bring me a few of them. I then grabbed the air sick bags and showed the little girl how they could be puppets. I then asked her to create some characters out of those puppets so we could use them, and that occupied her for a little bit, and we then played with the puppets for a while. We looked through the onboard magazine together and talked some, and around this time, the movie was about to be shown. Back then, we didn't have screens in the back of every seat. It was just one movie on one of those tiny TVs that hung off the overhead bins, and you used your own headphones to listen. You could also buy headphones, the super cheap ones, for $1. I didn't care what the movie was, but I paid $1 for the headphones and told the kid to enjoy. I'm pretty sure the movie was rated PG-13, but I didn't care, and she watched the movie and I was able to get some work done. Around 3.5 hours into the flight, they served a meal to everyone, and this is when the parents finally woke up. Meanwhile, the TV that had shown the movie was now showing some TV shows and the kid kept watching. Eventually, we landed safe and sound in Seattle, and since we were in the back of the plane, we had to wait a while for everyone to get off. The people seated in front of me turned around and said to me, "Your daughter was so well behaved on this flight today, you raised her right." And I smiled and said, "She really was well behaved, but she isn't my daughter. I've never met her before this flight and her parents are over there." The people gave me funny looks and said, "But we heard you doing games with her." I know, I said. She didn't have anything to do. I kind of shrugged, indicating I knew how odd the situation was, and eventually we were able to leave, and the parents never even thanked me. Instead, they asked the little girl if she had a good flight and left. Honestly, really nice of you to buy the headphones so they could watch a movie, watch TV. That was a cool move. But what are these parents thinking, dude? Just like, okay, you go sit next to those strangers and I'm gonna go to sleep and I didn't give you anything to do for a flight? If this would have ended with like the kid having a tantrum and biting somebody or whatever, that's all on the parents, bro. Obviously, that's unlikely, but at the same time, how do you not feel immensely guilty just sticking your 4-year-old on some stranger to babysit for 4 hours? No, wait, 5.5, excuse me, hours. That's a long time to just like expect somebody to entertain and watch your kid. My aunt and uncle tried to get me fired over some crumbs and it tore the family apart. Some background. This happened around 5 years ago. I was 23 and at that time I worked for a large cleaning/maid service chain that specialized in both household cleaning and commercial cleaning. I don't mean to sound braggy, but I pride myself on my work ethic and ability to be a highly productive member of a team. The first and only year they did this, I managed to get Employee of the Year status out of thousands of employees amongst hundreds of branches across Canada and the United States, which came with a cool $1,000 bonus. I was good at my job and did special little things for clients like fancy towel and toilet paper folds and nice vacuum lines, and was requested very often by clients, and I had never gotten a complaint in the 5 years that I worked there. I don't know what happened with my mother's side of the family, but her siblings are full-blown backstabbing narcissists. Some are worse than others that constantly make snide remarks.
My mom is not as bad as them, but she definitely has some narcissistic tendencies as well, and my grandmother is a sweet, open-minded, non-judgmental woman, so it baffles me all 4 of her children ended up being so crappy. The 4 of them they all married are equally as crappy people. Anyways, on to the story. My one aunt and uncle, who are the worst in the bunch, moved and needed the new house cleaner. They remembered that I clean houses, so they called my boss and signed up with the company I work for, specifically requesting me. I came into work the next day and my boss tells me the news that my aunt signed up and asked for me to clean their house. Knowing how she and her husband are, I was very apprehensive and asked my boss if it was a good idea, as it would be a conflict of interest. Basically, I tried to say, F no, I'm not cleaning her house in the most professional way possible, and regardless of my strong detest, my aunt was on the cleaning list the next day. I'll be honest, the first few cleans were totally fine. There were 4 adults living in my aunt's house at the time: my aunt, my uncle, their son and my cousin who was in university, and my grandma, so it was a lot of work to clean after 4 adults in a huge house. But it was nice to see my grandma every 2 weeks, and like I said, it was all going just fine. My grandmother and cousin were always home while I cleaned, and my aunt and uncle were usually at work, and my gran was always so appreciative, saying how good of a job I do, and she could see why I was deemed Employee of the Year. It was going fine until one morning when I come into work and my boss has a confused, concerned look on his face, and I ask him what's wrong. He states that my first complaint came in. I was shocked, and at this point, after so many years, I was pretty personal level with all my clients, so I figured if there were a concern, I would get told directly. My boss then says, and it's from your aunt and uncle. My shock turned into rage as my boss hands over a printed out complaint email, and I can't remember what it said, but I'll paraphrase it as best as I can. I just remember it being extremely cold and I was being referred to as your staff because I guess I wasn't worthy of a name. Dear boss, entitled aunt and I are writing this email in regards to a clean we recently had done by your staff. To say it was subpar is putting it lightly. When my wife and I got home from work, we found crumbs all over the kitchen floor, and high dusting was not completed. The high dusting he referred to were 9 feet tall shelves, and I'm not allowed to climb ladders due to liability reasons. The hallways were not vacuumed, and some other things seemed intentionally missed. We're disappointed in your staff, and we think they should be reprimanded. The cleaning is simply not good enough. We are only 98% satisfied, blah, 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 so on and so forth. I remember the email being about a page long, and that's basically the gist of it. My boss was shocked, I was shocked, and after explaining how my aunt and uncle are, he threw the complaint in the garbage, and I told him I'm not cleaning their house again, and he agreed. Hallelujah. I got home from work and was still upset about what happened. The fact that my family would try to get me reprimanded, and the fact they couldn't even use my name, the fact they couldn't just come to me directly or email me if they had a concern. I called my mom and stepdad and told them what happened, and I had taken a picture of the complaint email, so I sent it to them. They were pissed, like more pissed than I thought they would be. My stepdad called my uncle and told him he was a complete piece of crap and asked him what exactly his intentions were with the email and why they would go out of their way to get their niece fired or reprimanded, and who does that to their own family. My uncle was a complete coward and graveled an apology with his tail between his legs, and after he got chewed out by my stepdad, he called me and I let it go to voicemail, and he left a voicemail saying, "Why would you tell your parents about what happened? This was a professional matter that should have been kept between us and your work. The email was a misunderstanding. We're so sorry, Brookie." Oh, now I get a name. A nickname even? Please call me back so we can sort this out. I never called him back. I did send him an email explaining why I was so mad and that perhaps the 2 adults who were always home made some crumbs after I left, and also why he was now dead to me. Once the rest of the family caught wind about what happened, I think my aunt and uncle told everyone to get them on their side, and spoiler alert, no one took their side. My aunt and uncle's children, my cousins, reached out to me to personally apologize for their parents' behavior. My grandma apologized for her daughter's behavior, as this whole thing essentially tore the family apart. My grandma moved out not long after, and my mom didn't talk to her sister for a year, and my stepdad still hasn't talked to either of them since. And I haven't spoken to my uncle since either, and it's been 5 years. The son that doesn't live with them also went no contact for quite some time, and there have also been no family Christmas, Thanksgiving, or Easter dinners since this happened. Everyone knew what they were both pieces of crap, but I guess this was just the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of my family. I just don't understand why you would want to get your family fired. Like, even if they did a bad job, like you said, just toss them an email. You don't go to their boss and say, "We are dramatically unsatisfied." That's just gonna cause a lot of problems, especially when you're making it about the employee of the year. Like, did you really think they weren't going to run that complaint by her to double check it?
Oh no, yeah, we're just gonna fire her on the spot, forget it. It's not like she's been a fantastic employee for years, and this is the first complaint she's literally ever had. Your uncle sounds like a giant wrench, you know, that you would find in a tool bag, because he's one of them. Entitled mom stops my mom from helping an elderly lady. So my mom encountered a wild Karen in its natural habitat in the mall. We live in Canada in the city, and last year my mom went to our local mall down the highway where we live. She goes to the front entrance and saw an elderly lady struggling with the mechanical stairs, looking like she was scared of them. My mom, being a nice person, helps her then go to the elevator all the way on the other side of the plaza, and then came a Karen and her child. The Karen is already in the elevator trying to go to the mall cinema, and my mom and the old lady tried to come in, but Karen stops them. I'm more important and need to go to the movies with my child. Miss, we just need to come in the elevator. Here, it's this button, but got cut off by the Karen. I don't need your help, bye, and press the door close button on the old lady, with her looking confused. After 8 times of going down and coming back up, the first story, she finally gets the right button and went to complain to the cinema manager. My mom got down to the basement of the mall and let the old lady go on her way. Old lady on the elevator? No. Cinema comes first, obviously. I just love how she couldn't figure out how to get the buttons to work and kept coming back down to the floor, you know, like 8 times. Oh no, sorry, you're still not allowed in the elevator. I very much apologize. It's still mine. I'm going to the movie theater. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to press the like button. I would very much appreciate it. It was a longer video, so you know, just smack it. If you really enjoyed the video, be sure to comment down below. It definitely also helps. And if you like videos like this, subscribe and turn on those notifications. On that note though, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. There's also a playlist in the bottom of the description to the rest of the Reddit videos, so you can check that out. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.